So I believe everyone can hear me. Thank you for joining in. Ramadan Kareem to all of you. And we'll be giving a couple of more minutes for other participants to join in before we can start with our presentation. Let me just share the screen in the meantime. Okay, so I guess we can start now. We have a number of participants in the room now. So again, thank you everyone for joining in. And this is a session that we had been planning for a while. Uh, and we thought this would be the right time to address some of the practices that are being undertaken by the panelists here and all the other customers. So we have invited 3 panelists. I'll do the introduction shortly. And the topic of today's discussion, as you all know, is navigating business challenges during this Ramadan season, complemented or compounded by the COVID situation that we are in now. So how are expert marketers handling this situation? So in our panel today, we have 2 from, one is core marketer. Let me just start with the introduction now. So some notes for you all to post your questions. You can post your questions in the chat window or the Q&A page, and I'll be directing all those questions to your panelists, or I'll be responding to them if the questions are directed to me. So in case you have any questions, please feel free to shout it out. All right, so this is the agenda of today's webinar. I'll do a very brief introduction of CleverTap, and also I'll do the introduction of the panelists here today. And then each of these panelists are going to be talking about certain topics which may be relevant to you all, basically around user engagement, key initiatives and communications, and also changes in customer behavior, which is very relevant for this season. And then we'll have an audience engagement session, which is nothing but your question and answers, questions you may have for the panelists here, or questions you may have for CleverTap on the whole. So coming with our introduction, my name is Zubair. I'm in charge of APAC sales. I cover the region here, along with my peers, Marc-Antoine, Maivo, Saurabh, and also our very efficient customer success team led by Meenakshi. So we have Rosnan here, who is the head of performance marketing from Touch 'n Go. And Rosnan is a veteran in the industry. He has been doing what he's doing now for a very long time. And as you'll know, as you'll know during his presentation, he's in the space for his entire career. He built the digital marketing capabilities at CIMB and expanded it through his hands-on experience in all startups. And he has seen success in his previous companies, growing their user base over 4 times in short periods of time. And he is now head of performance marketing at Touch 'n Go Digital. Then we have Anurag here. Anurag is head of technology and digital transformation. He is with Mata Hari at the moment, and he has been on both sides of the world. He has been with consulting companies in the past, and now he's with an end user company. And he has also worked across 4 different continents. He has worked in Australia and New Zealand, Southeast Asia, Middle East and Africa, and India. Currently, Anurag is based out of Indonesia. And our last panelist we have here is Bara. Bara is a self-made product manager, and he is a product manager at Kitabisa. He is Kitabisa for you all. You might be knowing Kitabisa. It is the largest crowdfunding platform in Indonesia, and it is basically what they are doing is in times of these needs, they are helping out the community through their platform. You can donate through their platform, it runs charity programs and all that. So Bara is going to give you some insights as to how they are doing it. But in the past, Bara has also been the product manager of a tech-driven laundromat called Clean Lab Laundry. And he has also been the product manager at a highly acclaimed digital laundromat POS solution, Clean Lab POS. So moving on. Let me just give you a very brief introduction of CleverTap. CleverTap is a user engagement and retention platform for consumer brands. So what we do is we provide people like you, mobile first companies, or people who have all their business run through digital forms. We give you a platform to be able to engage with your users, and also we give you a platform to analyze your users, to understand their user behavior and make the engagement more relevant. So relevance is very important in this day and age, and that is what we are also going to be talking about today. Relevant messages sent out to the different segments of people, relevant messages sent out to your customers in these testing times. So CleverTap is a platform which can help you do all that stuff. And we are pioneer in this industry again. We are trusted by top brands across the globe. We have Gojek as our customer in Indonesia. We have Touch and Go as our customer. We have Hotstar, Domino's. We have Kitabisa as our customer. And yeah, we have over 8,000 mobile apps who are using our SDKs to understand their user behavior. So without further ado, let me just move on to to Bara to talk about the user engagement and response during Ramadan. Bara, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Zubair. Can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes, please go ahead, Bara.
Okay, good. All right, thank you for inviting me to be here today. So I'm excited to share and discuss with you in terms of the experience of Kitabisa and my experience as product manager at Kitabisa when it comes to user engagements and response during Ramadan and this COVID-19. So as mentioned previously, my name is Bara. I'm a product manager currently for Kitabisa donation platform. So for those of you who are not familiar with Kitabisa, Kitabisa is perhaps in the next slide, Zubair. Can I do it myself? Oh no. All right. So basically, Kitabisa is, as mentioned previously, is online donation crowdfunding platform in Indonesia. One of the oldest, as well as one of the biggest when it comes to the online donations. It started as positive social movement in 2013, and then we changed our form in 2015 and have, I think, we believe, found the product market fit in 2018. So it allowed us to scale and go and funneling our missions, which is kindness at scale. So we currently have 3.5 registered donors and keep on growing. And our product mostly covers like a direct debit recurring donations, one-time donations, zakat, which is a charity or alms. There is a kurban as well. And our latest, newest product is Health Mutual Aid Fund. So it's what we call a tabaru concept. For those who are not familiar with it, probably can search it on the Google search. So it's basically a way for people to pull in money to help each other when some of them are going sick. It's basically some like insurance without the premium. So that's what we are doing and what we and how we channeling kindness at the moment. So perhaps the next slides. So then let's go to the what we learned in previous Ramadan. So Ramadan is always a special time for Kitabisa itself, because in the past few years, we saw the trend that in this time, usually during this Ramadan, especially because we are living in Islamic majority country, so it's heavily influenced by this month, that people are generally more generous or spend more during Ramadan. This is been what we are experiencing in the past few years, and even in COVID times, we keep on seeing this trend that people are keep on spending more for donations and donate more and do more transactions this year than this specific period than any other period in during the year, throughout the year. So that's why these Ramadans always have a special treatment. We always treat it as a very special period for Kitabisa because most of the record for Kitabisa growth are broken during this this year. So it happened in last year as well, and I think it's also happening this year. So, for example, like last year's in Ramadan, we acquire 40% more donors than the second highest month throughout 2019. So it's compared to previous period as well as after. So even during the entire 2019, and if we want, and quite frankly, if we're talking about Kitabisa growth, you can always, if someone asks that, when are the time where the growth is highest, the answer is always the same. It's highest during Ramadan, and because Ramadan keep on moving, because it using a lunar year instead of solar year. So usually the period keep on moving, usually moving 2 days or 3 days or forward in the next year. Even when it's keep on moving, the trend keep on following where the Ramadan is. So usually the peak moment for Kitabisa or donor in Kitabisa doesn't follow a traditional period where you can pinpoint, oh, it's August or it's in December or it's in, no, it's always following where the Ramadan falls. So that's actually one of the things that unique in Kitabisa itself. And also in Ramadan, 23% of all new user in 2019 acquired during Ramadan. So it's probably almost a quarter of it, which I think show the significance of the Ramadan itself in terms of acquiring new users, and a lot of our older users as well who are previously churned or previously bounced during previous month, or those who are inactive. Usually there are more people are coming back to our platform or reactivating our platform during this time as well. So we also noticed there are certain subset of our user who are only active during that period of time. So they only come back on yearly basis. You can see that the difference between the Ramadan in 2019, when it comes to reactivation users, when it comes to zakat, when it comes to traffic in our web, as well as transactions, you can see that it's almost double in every metric. Sometimes it even triple when it comes to, especially when it comes to zakat, something that people are usually do more during these Ramadan sessions. Okay, we next. So what do we learn during that? Hold on. Yeah, this. So what did we learn during that Ramadan and COVID-19 this year? So learning from previous Ramadan, there are 4, I think, big lessons that we learned, and during the COVID in the last few months. That I think one of the big lessons we learned is that always that if there is something that you can measure, always try to measure that. because the moment that you are not measuring it, there are a lost opportunity for optimizing there. For example, that because we are new, we just launched like our app. I think our native app just launched about 1 month or 2 months before Ramadan. So what happened is that we don't have all the proper metrics or all the proper measurement in place at that time. So while we acquire a lot of users, we learn later when we evaluate the initiative, the marketing initiative, the marketing performance, the user acquisitions during Ramadan, we realized that while the acquisition is high, the churn rate is also high. What it means that there are certain funnels that we actually can optimize, but we don't know how to optimize it because we don't measure it properly. So I think that is one of the lost opportunity there during last Ramadan. So that's why I think in the past 2 or 3 quarters, one of the main focus as a product manager is to actually implementing a proper measurement in place for all the critical funnel in our platform. So we know exactly where the user having a problem with, where we can optimizing better, and where we can actually increase engagement. So that's why tools like CleverTap, like AppsFlyer for installing attributions, for Facebook Pixels or Google Enhanced E-commerce is important, especially if you have a platform like mobile app as well as the web app. Because that's how we learn that 20% of our users actually churn during the registration process, and the other 20% churn during the donation process flow. So that is something that we haven't had a clue previously, because we don't put that a granular process to know, granular measurement tracking to know which part of the product flow that user having a problem with, which is also a problem if you are doing performance marketing, because you paid for that performance marketing and you want to be sure that people that actually are coming into the platform can donate or can buy the goods that they want to do. So if they have a problem with that, or they find it too difficult to do, usually people just left, and then it's not good for your CPI or for your CAC, for example. So, and the second one that we learned the hard way is that to have a reliable infrastructure. So what happened in that, I think last month or 2 months ago, when COVID start to hit Indonesians' big cities, that more and more Indonesians, artists, actresses, actors, TV stations starting to pull together, or musicians, for example, start to pull together initiative to have a donation platform. So what they do is that they open a Kita Bisa fundraising campaign, and they fundraise in Kita Bisa. And during that time, the traffic is very, very high. In fact, in one of the, we got a chance to partner with one of TV stations here in Indonesia. So what happened is that during that live TV stations, they show live donations, a QR code and live donations amount in a live TV concert, I think it was. And then it broke our infrastructure because the amount of traffic that coming in. So most people, and people start complaining that they cannot do donations, and then because the infrastructure just can't handle the scale of that donation. So I think that is a lost opportunity as well for us, both when it comes to the partnership, because we have to be responsible to our partner who run the charity concert, as well as for those users who are already willing to donate but unable to. So preparing for that is also, especially when you already know that the trend is always peaking during this time, and during the disaster like this, it's always better to prepare in advance in terms of mitigation plan when the traffic hit you at all-time high, for example. And targeting people during their most active time is also something that we learned last year, that I think from our experience, it might be different with other platform. the time from sahur time, probably around 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. Probably one of the time to best engage with the audience, with the customers. The breaking fast time, which is in Jakarta, it's around 6 to 7 p.m. And in the middle of the day, probably during lunch break, even though people are fasting, they don't do, most people don't have lunch. I think most people have a break time from work during that middle of the day. And it's one of those times where people usually get bored a while from working or want to take a step back from working just to open up their phone or just browsing around. So I think that's also the best time to engage. And the other is the important to have a unified key message. Last year, I think we didn't do as well as this year. And I think the lesson learned from that is that 1 month probably not enough to prepare for all the things, the alignment that necessary to make sure the success of all initiative during Ramadan. Of course, it's different across companies, depending on how big the organization is and how much stakeholder there are that needed to be aligned when it comes to Ramadan. In company as big as Kitabisa, I think we realized that we need to prepare, in fact, from early Q1 this year for this Ramadan, because there are certain like product features that need to be developed, key messages that need to be aligned, and then the marketing strategy as well, and budgeting for that Ramadan. So I think it's important to, especially because you can predict if the Ramadan, where the Ramadan will fall each year. So it's always better to have, to prepare in advance, 2 or 3 months in advance to prepare for the initiative that you want to do during Ramadan. So next.
So, Bara, let me ask you something here. Based on this, now, as I mentioned earlier, this Ramadan has been compounded by the COVID period, because of which your company, Kitabisa especially, would have seen tremendous amount of traffic like never seen before, as you mentioned. So what kind of a change have you done as a product manager, apart from increasing the reliability of your infrastructure? What kind of an action have you taken in terms of your product as it is to reach out to your customers better based on the insights that you have got from CleverTap?
Okay, so basically, I think that's where these slides coming in, right? What we learned during these 2 months in COVID-19 situations, we realized that when we looking back at the data that we got, we realized that, okay, most of our organic users is coming from the influencer that are working with us. By influencer, we means like musicians or those who have a clout in social media. Usually those are YouTubers. Their audience engage, when they do a fundraising, their audience very much engage with them. So, and then we start thinking on, okay, this influencer works, that these people actually can bring more, can expose our app to more users, can expose our platform to more users. So we start thinking, okay, so rather than, usually it's very traditional, they just post it on their social media, and then people start downloading from there or donating from there. But we also believe that since they are natively using YouTube anyway, so I think having a YouTube live streams product might help to amplify that process, to enhance that process, because influencers have already using YouTube as a tool to communicate to their audience. They do a live Instagram feed all the time. So we believe that, okay, previously we don't have this live embed where you can embed the donations or QR code in the YouTube. So we believe that, so we start developing that last month, and then start using it like a week after. So I think we took a week to come up with the MPV for that. And that's been a very big hit when it comes to exploring, because we saw then both in CleverTap for analytics that all the amount of install from the organic raises from that specific UTM. And then we also saw that the UTM coming from those influencers, which you can track using tools like CleverTap or using your own database. When you store that UTM, that most of it or the big chunk of it is coming from that influencers led campaign. So I think that one of the things that we improve in terms of product. The other one, I think, using tools like Google Enhanced E-commerce, like CleverTap, like Facebook Pixel, you can see exactly where the users start having a problem. Like for example, in Kita Bisa app platform, the click-through rate during the registrations is only about, I think 60%. So 40% of our user didn't even verify their account or having problem registering their account for various reasons. So when I start implementing more granular tracking using a CleverTap, for example, I can see that most of it actually having a problem when it comes to validating their OTP. Sometimes the OTP doesn't work. Sometimes the alert, the error message that we send to user is not instructive or is not clear enough. So the user know what to do for that error, specific error. So I think that is the thing that we are currently working on. And I think I will release the improvement next week. The other things that is a checkout flow that previously in Kita Bisa, we have this one-step checkout. So you have to just click donasi sekarang, for example, donate now, and then you fill all the informations you need in that one pages, and then just go to the payment checkout details. So what we saw during using those tracking and analytics, we saw that while it simplified the amount of screen that user have go through, the amount of information that the user have to fill within one screen actually prohibit many users to complete the process, because some of our users are older when it comes to demographic. So those people having a problem of, I think, information overload, for example, because they are not sure which field they need to fill in first. They are not sure why certain things are required, for example. So they just give up in the middle of filling the form. So what happened is that I think early this year, I think in February, I think we start implementing new checkout flow in which we break down those pages into several screens. So people can answer the question in chunk and fill the form in chunk, in a smaller chunk, like the screen, and that increased our CTR by 20%. So of course, we also noticed one things that we late to realize last year is that when we start implementing a tracking in our app, we saw that app user engage more, sometimes 4 times more or 2 times more than those who are only using the web. So that led us to believe that that perhaps migrating user from the web to the app is actually a good idea, because it's better. We can see that most people who are migrating to the app have a better long-term lifetime value. They retain more, and they actually transact more in our platform. Like they donate more in the platform. So that's why I think one of the major focus this Ramadan is to actually just to do that, because I think our mistake last year is to only focus on acquisitions and not taking care of the retention that well. So even though we acquire a lot of users last year, probably are only around like 10 to 50% stay in our platform. So I think that is something that becoming our major focus this year to increase those long-term value, long lifetime value for our users and cohort for the users by actually implementing specific features and increasing the quality of the app as well, that's specific to the app, so we can onboard or migrate user or nudge our web user to install the app and do all of their donations from the app. Yeah, by usually sometimes having a feature like a gimmick feature and something like zakat calculator or inbox updates that using and I think currently using CleverTap technology for that, as well as the new homepage in the app. So we hope that by building these features that only available in the app, we can actually incentivize user to install the app and then stay longer in our platform. Okay, I think yeah, I think that's it for me. Especially in the times of Corona, I think I just saw one articles in the Medium, I think last week. It's called the Wartime Product Leadership. I think it's one articles that I should read for everyone, not only for our product managers, that are talking about how we can, what is the best mindset for us to have during the crisis like this, because it's very much a very different mindset with the peacetime product leaderships that usually happen when there is no crisis around. But I think in times of war, there are certain mindsets that needs to change, certain attitude that needs to change when it comes to developing a product, as well as perhaps any strategy when it comes, even a marketing strategy, when it comes to making sure that we have a sustainable business going forward. I think that is one of the recommended read that I can recommend to you to read as additions to these presentations. I think that's it from me, and I think we can engage more during the question and answer sessions.
For sure. Thank you so much, Bara. Thank you for sharing all your insights and everything that you are doing during this time, and also sharing your experience doing so. Thank you so much. So moving on from there, we have Rosnan, Head of Performance and Product Marketing at Touch 'n Go Digital. And he is going to be talking about the key initiatives and communication this Ramadan season. So Rosnan, over to you, please.
Yeah, okay, so I will go through my stuff quite briefly because it's mainly on the messaging, but let me sort of introduce everybody to Touch 'n Go e-wallet. So Touch 'n Go e-wallet was established in about 2018. From there, we have grown to be the largest e-wallet by quite a fair margin in Malaysia, with almost 11 million registered users. So if you're looking at penetration in Malaysia, we have about, there's only about a bit over 30 mil Malaysians and probably 20 mil addressable. So we have more than half the market. So we're a very large app, right? So our main goal is to allow people to transact cashlessly and to just make all their payments without ever using cash. Our unique proposition on top of our wide coverage is also the fact that we're tied in with the tolls. So if you're paying for tolls, it deducts from your e-wallet instead of from your stored value card. So that's Touch 'n Go e-wallet in a nutshell. We cover essentially every form of payment in Malaysia, from online transactions to merchant, in-store transactions, donations, toll transactions, anything you need to do to pay, we are pretty much there. So that's us, right? Okay, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so I don't have a lot of detail, but I just want to talk through what Touch 'n Go e-wallet has been doing in Malaysia for this COVID period. So after the lockdown happened, we saw a big drop in overall, transactions, because people weren't using the tolls, people weren't driving around, people weren't going outside. So we shifted our messaging quite quickly from, hey, go and shop at a store and get cash back at this store, or just go out and buy and go to the theaters. We instantly removed all messaging around those sort of what we sort of declared non-essential transactions from our app, from our messaging, everything, and we quickly switched it over to messaging around COVID-19, about what you should be doing during the COVID-19 period. we changed our strategies in terms of rewards and discounts and cashback to focus on transactions that people were still doing and transactions that actually did matter to them. So, for instance, if you're going to buy groceries, we would give you cash back on that. We partnered up with people like Red Bull. So Red Bull did an initiative to allow the frontliners, so these are food delivery guys, firemen, police, medical workers, to get Red Bull at a really low price. So they worked in conjunction with us because we could track the transactions. So we gave them Red Bulls at RM1, 1 ringgit, which is quite a bit cheaper than the actual Red Bull cost. Then we also focus on a lot of things that you would do from home. So these are like, ordering groceries online, getting your pharmaceutical needs online. Then obviously we also worked with some streaming sites, because knowing that you are stuck at home and you do need to get the essentials, there are still sort of needs for entertainment and the like and stuff like that. So we did still do some promotions around in-app streaming, stuff like that. But everything is very focused on COVID. Messaging, we kept the messaging quite consistent across everything that we did. It's always about safety. It's always about maintaining your social distance. It's us playing our part in getting Malaysians to comply with the movement control order, to get people to stay at home, to get people to just keep away from everybody else, maintain social distancing. So if you look at images, this is some of it, right? We ran like I think in 1 month we ran like 50 different campaigns. Everything changed. We even deployed very quickly a section within our app that was dedicated to just giving people updates about COVID, to give people sort of very COVID-related transactions and promotions that they could enjoy, and giving them advice on what they could do during this COVID period. How do you maintain social distancing? If you were to cook, you need to get some quick recipes at home. Here's what you can do. So it's the entire section on the app that we deployed, I think within the span of like a week. We got the content ready, we got the product ready, and we rolled it out. Everything worked in conjunction, not just the product team, the web team, even the business teams that went and got the partnerships done, the marketing. So everybody sort of moved all together. But what was very important was that the direction came down that we need to focus on these key messages around safety, maintain social distancing, and we have to always be sensitive. I think that's actually very important for brands to realize that during this COVID period. And although I think we are lifting the movement control order in a lot of countries, I'm sure in the countries that you're all at, you may still have some restrictions, but it will be lifted very soon. But even when it's lifted, it doesn't mean stuff goes back to normal straight away. You still need to do your part to make sure people maintain that social distancing messaging. So the sensitivity is very important. So we had to make sure that we do not ever say anything that sort of veers away from an acceptable message, right? I can't go out and tell people that I still have my movie discounts, that you should still go, because we have like tons and tons of restaurants that we have available. We can't tell them to go and eat out, right? So you have to be very careful. And when you're a very large business with a lot of moving parts, you have to make sure you go through all the messaging that you do and sort of make sure that you have a complete oversight of everything that you do, so you don't let one accidental message go out. Because I've seen this before. It's very dangerous when you let one thing slip. You just need one really annoyed user or really annoying competitor to pick it up and just blow it up on the internet. So during this period, make sure you get a hold of all your communications. If you need to, cut everything. So we did a very drastic cut on our advertising, external advertising. So we cut our spends. We turned off a lot of ads to make sure that when we did go out of ads again, it was all around the safety, maintain social distancing, contactless sort of messaging. So yeah, you can see that we deployed a lot of campaigns with pharmacies and stuff. So that's Carrier, which is one of the larger pharmacies over here. and then also we have, food delivery was a big part. It is Ramadan, right? So it's a unique time for Ramadan in Malaysia where you're fasting. You do need to get your food. You want to buka puasa. You want to break fast and all, but you can't really do it the same way that you did before. You can't have the same Ramadan bazaars that we did before because you just can't have bazaars. But what we did was we worked with a lot of partners, so to instead of you going out and having that sort of breaking fast experience and that bazaar experience outside, which you can't do anymore, we've worked with partners and we brought that to people at home. So we worked with lots of individual merchants. We worked with aggregators of merchants, logistics partners, delivery partners. So what we do is they would source out the different bazaar merchants, and you could order from those merchants, pay with Touch 'n Go e-wallet, have that delivered over to you at home. So you do have that same bazaar feel. So we continue with the Ramadan messaging. It doesn't really change that it is Ramadan. You still need to talk about Ramadan. You want people to feel that it is normal, well, relatively normal. But there's just some changes to the way that they're going to go about their lives. But as much as possible, keep everything quite the same. We did very similar activities last year, but of course you would go out to the bazaar street. Now we're saying the same thing, but you're bringing the bazaars to you. So lots of partnerships with food delivery companies. We have a very large competitor in Malaysia called Grab, who dominates in the food delivery arena. But us as the largest e-wallet, what we've done is we've essentially aggregated all the smaller delivery partners into one sort of location, which is us. You can find all the food that you can order with all these partners. You can get all the discounts with every single partner with us, right? With every partner, we have a particular free delivery, cashback, so some sort of promotion with that partner so that we support these delivery companies. Because with a lot of them, they need that reach, right? With a lot of these people would struggle with competing with a giant like Grab. So we sort of help them and give them the platform in that way, while still, making it useful for our users. So during this period, we've seen a huge spike in delivery orders from various different delivery partners. So food has been a big drive for us during Ramadan. So it's the safety messaging. It is the Ramadan messaging. Try to keep everything normal, but make sure that you're also still sensitive, and the weird thing is that in Malaysia, it depends on your country, but in Malaysia, there's developments every single day, right? On whether the bazaars are on, whether the bazaars are off, whether you can go out, what time is it that you can deliver until. So you have to keep abreast of the news, and you have to really keep on top of everything to be flexible enough to change the messaging as and when these announcements go up, right? So, deliveries were until 7 p.m. At one point. It wasn't until 7 p.m. At one point. We had to adjust the way we timed our messaging. We had to adjust the periods that we sent, the words that we said, how we said it, whether or not we could do bazaars, whether we could mention the word bazaar or not. So all these things need to be taken into consideration, because you're not only playing with sensitivities of your users, you're also playing with the political sensitivities with the government, because we're so large, we don't want to say anything that contradicts what the government's announcing. So you really have to be on the ball and keep up to date with a lot of different things. So messaging wise, I think that's sort of what Touch 'n Go e-wallet has done in this period. So yeah, that's essentially what I have for you guys today, which is just keep on top of everything, be sensitive, and move with the flow, right? Announcements can be made very, very rapidly. You never know, like we never got a heads up from the Prime Minister's office or anything on what they're going to do. So everybody is just tuning into the announcement. And as soon as the announcement goes up, we are deploying all the different messaging that we have sort of prepared in place. So we have all the different contingencies, whether is it going to lift, is it not going to lift, what's going to happen if our promotions here, what's going to happen if promotions there. So just keep abreast and be mindful about what's going out during this period. In terms of segmentation, which is actually one thing I wanted to bring up, which Zubair mentioned earlier, is that segmentation and controlling what different users see is very important during this period. I mean, for some reason, if you look at your phones, I think in this period, I don't know for the other countries, but for me, I'm being flooded with notifications, right? Nonstop. Like my notification tray is just, it's endless scroll. I scroll through it longer than I scroll on Facebook. So you have to give very contextual messaging to your users, right? You're not going to give bizarre messaging or Ramadan messaging to users who are not interested in that. You're not going to tell people who do prepaid reloads to do a prepaid reload in this period if they don't do prepaid reloads. If I have a messaging around groceries, I'm not going to send the grocery messaging to a user who has never done a grocery purchase before. So we have to make, we spend a lot of time with our business intelligence team to segment the different audiences that we have to make sure that our messages go out to individual users with as much context as possible, because this allows us to make more messaging, to send more messages out at once and sort of get people to convert as best as they can. If you do this, you can see the click-throughs and your transaction conversion rates skyrocket, right? So that's sort of what we do. We try to make sure that we keep our segments as defined as possible and the messaging as contextual to that segment as possible. That way we keep our push CTRs like above 20%, and we keep our conversion rates and transactions about 10 to 15% around there. Yeah. Oh yeah. The other thing I did want to mention is that we do a lot of donations as well, and we did see an uplift in terms of donations. Reason why I'm not really highlighting that it's because other people do it better than us. It's been great for us, but it's just one of the things that a lot of the e-wallets have sort of deployed. Boost, one of our larger competitors as well, we're very aggressive into zakat, into donations, and that's another area that I think a lot of people have gone into. But don't just jump on the trend, right? If it doesn't really work for you, and food works for you, and something else works for you, and that's what your users expect, make sure you do what your users expect. Don't just jump onto what you're seeing the market do. So that's why evaluating your user behavior, evaluating your data is very, very important to make sure that you get the right messages out there. Yeah, so a lot of our messaging and the way we derive our messaging does stem from what we see our users do. When we go out and do promotions, we see what the users are doing in terms of what actions they're taking in the app, whether they're transacting in convenience stores, are they even buying online? If they're buying online, what are they buying online? I'm not gonna, so for instance, a big chunk of our transactions are actually baby products and stuff like that. So we did a big push on motherhood stuff, parenting stuff, baby stuff. So it was very much derived from the insights we get from our data. The situation out there, which is you still need to get your baby stuff and your parenting stuff done. So this is how you do it via the Touch 'n Go e-wallet app. So we combine all of that into a nice little parenting message, and we push that to our parenting users, right? We don't push it to users who are like 18 years old or under 20 years old who don't have any family and don't have any history of making a transaction at a parenting type location. So the data is very important, and that's sort of where how we use CleverTap to sort of segment and make sure that all these transactions, all these messaging goes out as efficient as possible, and we track the convergence very, very, very closely. So as Bar mentioned, everything that we do is tracked. So just because we're focusing on the messaging, it's important to know whether that messaging converts into actual transactions. Because at the end of the day, although we're trying to be sensitive, we're trying to be mindful of the situation, we still want to make sure that we contribute to the business. So yeah, that's what we've been doing in a nutshell.
Thanks, Roslyn. I know that you're hard pressed for time, but I have a couple of questions for you. Now, if I understand you correctly, what you have been mentioning is that we have to be relevant, we have to be contextual in the messages that we send, at the same time being sensitive. And you also have to have a robust and a very agile time to change the product with the changing needs, right? And speaking of sensitivity, we had one of our other customers sharing with us how they have discontinued campaigns like payday promotions and all that stuff because during this time, a lot of their customers are probably losing their jobs. So they just have to be very sensitive about the words that they use in their campaigns, like remove everything that is exciting, or make people excited about spending in this kind of a somber situation. Perhaps this is the most somber Ramadan that we are all having in our living memory. So we just have to be very sensitive about that. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had to cut our payday. We have like a huge payday campaign that we run every month, and we had to make sure we axe that just in time.
Right. So I have two questions for you from the audience, if you don't mind answering. You mentioned that you run over 40 campaigns. How do you manage that with the audience segmentation, plus with the frequency of those messages? 50 campaigns are a lot in a month.
Yeah. So we don't.
How do
You don't
answer
have to.
this?
You don't have to message all 50 campaigns, right? You just have to focus on which campaigns actually matter. We have a lot of stuff that happens. We have a lot of promotions with a lot of people, but there are a lot of there are large partners that you do want to work with that will drive your traffic more significantly. The other thing that we do as well is we make sure that when we do a campaign, you're looking at it from a user's point of view. So if I have like 6 campaigns or eight different promotions which are actually within a similar segment or a similar behavior, I'm not going to send each 8 to you individually. Instead, I will bundle it up to you and tell you, hey, because you do a lot of online transactions, or for instance, like I said, because you're a parent, here's all the parenting promotions that are relevant to you right now. If you are a frequent grocery or like you buy a lot of groceries, these are the places where you can get your groceries today in terms of large chains, as well as the small medium enterprises that you can get your groceries from, and these are the promotions associated to them. Because that way, when you bundle everything and you make it contextual to the user, you're able to deliver all those campaigns over to your user, but you don't have to actually do it individually. So that's sort of how you control it. And it is a problem that it is definitely a problem that we face, not just during COVID, in general, because we have promotions with so many partners. We have to sort of categorize everything and theme everything. So our Ramadan, we have a lot of thematics.
Right. The other question they have for you is, you said you had cut your traditional ad spendings, but we could see your messages in other OTT players app like View. How the shift of ad platform is helping you, budgeting and returns around the new platform?
We cut lots of ads. we cut even our digital spends came down quite a bit. You may still see some of our digital ads. I mean, in terms of out of home, even the billboard players, the digital billboard guys, they actually turned off their screens, so you couldn't buy on those screens anyway. So we did run some ads. We adjusted it so that it would be pushing the stuff that was relevant to the period. But we sort of had to get that under control quite quickly. But it wasn't really a big deal for us. It's just a really odd situation for Touch and Go e-wallet, because we were coming off a very big spike in users from a government initiative that happened from January to March. So we actually weren't doing a huge chunk of paid advertising in the first place. So when COVID sort of hit us, we didn't have to spend so much time turning everything off. We just had to make sure that we didn't go live with anything new. So that's sort of what we did.
Right, okay. Any other questions for Rosnan? Because Rosnan has a hard stop at 12 and he could be leaving shortly. But if you have any other questions, you can send it to me and I can take it up with him offline and respond back to you. Thanks a lot, Rosnan.
All right, thanks guys.
Moving on, we have a champion from e-commerce industry, Matahari. Anurag, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Zubair. So good morning, everyone. It's almost going to be noon for most of you in Singapore, but we are still in morning in Indonesia out here. So let's move on, Zubair, to the next slide quickly. Right, so let me quickly introduce Matahari to who don't know about us. So we have been in Indonesia since 1958, running around 165 plus stores till date. We are the pioneer of retailing in Indonesia we're the biggest and oldest value fashion retailer till date out here. And the penetration that we have pan-Indonesia, no other retailer at this point has that. In regards to the digital presence of Matahari, so we opened matahari.com January 2019. But there was still a digital presence before that, more into, as a kind of a vendor into a marketplace model called Matahari Mall, which wasn't a Matahari initiative. It was a wider initiative of the Lipo Group, which Matahari department store is part of. But if you look at pure play e-commerce offering, that's matahari.com, which started around January 2019. I'll skip my introduction because Zubair already did that. So let's move on, Zubair, to the next one. Right. So I think both Bara and Roshan touched around how Ramadan is big in this region, right? And definitely for Indonesia is the biggest season. And definitely for retailers is the period that everyone looks out for. It contributes to 25 to 30% minimum yearly revenue. And there are, you start preparing for Ramadan at least 1 quarter, if not 2. With all the planning, the budget allocation, the product allocation, and what kind of budget targets we are targeting towards. Footfalls increases drastically, and obviously we are a very store heavy model. When it's a store heavy, if you visit our Matahari stores, you will find that the amount of inventory a store carries, you would probably not find in any other standard department stores across the globe. It's a very unique model that we carry, and obviously during Ramadan the footfalls increases tremendously. Even for our online, right? Not only for our online, let's say any e-commerce online for that matter, the traffic increase is minimal 2 to 3 times. And even for AOVs or purchases, everything increases drastically. One of the major reasons for that, and most of you would know that, is the THR that people get out here 2 weeks prior to Lebaran. That increases the spending aspect from the consumers definitely. And I mean, the bottom line is Ramadan is the biggest period for any retailers, be it online, be it offline. So how has it impacted this time? So let's move on to the next slide. Right. So let's touch on Matahari as such, and this is the impact that we have for all the other brick and mortar retailers, be it Ramayana, be it MAP, be it anyone, right? For the last 5 weeks odd, all our stores have been closed, right? So today out of our 165 stores, we only have 3 stores open, and there is minimal footfalls that is we are facing out there. So it's a huge impact, definitely. 5 weeks of no trading, no cash flows is a big impact. And definitely in the times of when you are looking at your biggest season, that has always happened, right? And by the trends of how COVID is shaping up, definitely we don't see anything much changing in May. Maybe something around end of May or early June, we hope that things would, I'm not say normal, but things would look better, and we may start reopening a few of the stores, right? But definitely most of May is lost, and that would mean Ramadan Lebaran is kind of lost for us. But the good part is on the digital side, right? On the e-commerce side, definitely the trend has been encouraging. It has surpassed our previous numbers by now already, and it's still not peaked up, right? We are expecting the peak coming next week. So and anyone, the pure play e-commerce or the marketplace players, or who like us traditional retailers having digital presence, it would be a boom, and definitely a boom for grocery retailers. That's evident already, right? So definitely there is multiple opportunity on a digital scale. We need to shape our digital footprint. We are already doing that on a Matahari standpoint, but I believe most of other retailers, be it Indonesia, be it globally, are shaping up their digital presence. It's a good time to look at multiple opportunities that may be relevant in the coming times. So any also an opportunity where you may have put on hold few initiatives because of time crunch or because of change in business operations. So that this is also a very good time to focus on those, because now your stores are closed, so you can reshape your SOPs, your operation models, and then when you're back in operation, you can always look at initiating those on hold initiatives, right? We are looking at things positively out here, right? Definitely on a cash flow impact there is, but we look at the positivities that has come out of COVID, which would mean that you have your digital presence increasing, your revenue increasing from your digital touch points, and obviously you look at reshaping some of your business operations for the coming days when you're back into normal mode. So let's move on. Right. So we have been hearing that post COVID there's a new normal that's setting in, right? So I have a different take to it. Yes, there would be impacts. Definitely there would be impacts. It won't be easily coming back to the normal we were used to. There would be still a caution in the air for the next 1 year odd at least. But I would say, and that's my belief, that humans end of they are social animals, right? And uh, I would say that within 8 months to a year odd, things would be back to normal as they used to be. But definitely there are learnings that we can take out of this. Or as I mentioned, all the digital initiatives, all the operational change models, and all that can be taken forward. It's a good time to refocus on all digital touch points, increase digital touch points. So it's not only an e-commerce that can be called a digital offering, right? So we have explored other options like WhatsApp. We've explored, moving into multiple marketplaces other than our own e-commerce offering. Then we have explored in-store digital presence as such. So when we are back, there would be certain touch points we'll see in store where you can trade through our online platform as well, right? So just I'll summarize it this way, right? That the word that is kind of trending out is brick and mortar dead or going to die post COVID. I would say no. It can't, and it's not going to die anytime soon. It would need to coexist with digital, and the buzzword of omnichannel that has been surfacing for the last few years. I think that will be further buzzword that will carry on and will be key for the times to come. So I'll just quickly close it out here and open to questions.
Okay, thanks, Anurag. I have a question for you here, posted by someone. They say usual minimal increase in e-commerce websites is 2 to 3 times during Ramadan period.
Yeah.
At what stage is it right now? Also, what is your expectation post-COVID on this? Do you feel a strong demand will be there?
Yeah, so I would say we have already surpassed what we have seen trends in the last year, right? The main reason has been that our stores have been closed for the last 5 weeks. So we have, so the 2 to 3 times was a generic trend, not a COVID trend, right? So we are already around more than 3 times right now, and we're expecting it to further peak next week, which can go up to 4 times normal traffic,
That's
right?
nice.
Yeah. And post-COVID, right, or let me say post-Ramadan, it all depends on this trend of COVID continuing. So if COVID impacts continue, definitely online would be the preferred channel. Let's say even if COVID goes down, right? And I'm expecting it to go down in the next few weeks, things to become more normal in the next few weeks. But what already would have happened is that the taste of being digital, right? The taste of trading from your home or buying from your home would have already been encouraging for many consumers, right? So as I mentioned, it has to be a coexistence ongoing, and the digital or the e-commerce offering would continue to see more traffic because of the experience that the customers would have had now. But for us, and I'm saying on behalf of Matari, right? It's e-commerce is never going to be, it will complement offline, but it's never going to be competition or like for like volume or revenue for offline, right? So it's going to be an additional channel, and more of an omni channel is what we're aiming towards. But my view is that e-commerce traffic would continue to surge even beyond Ramadan and beyond COVID.
Right. So, and that could be attributed to the new normal or the different
Yeah.
way
So
of.
again, as I said, I have that point around this new normal. So yes, it's a new normal, but it's not going to be a drastic change in a normal, right? It's, as I said, it could be probably 6 to 8 months where this caution would be there, but beyond that, we should be able to get back to what we are used to. But for a retailer, for a e-commerce player, definitely it would have benefited us, because now you would have reached out to more consumers that you had done before, right? So that's the benefit that would have come out of this period.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a very interesting question here and a very relevant question.
Yeah.
With the closure of physical stores, what campaigns are you doing to reach out to your offline customers and urging them to go online? If
Yeah.
yes, what do you define as conversion success to offline to online, of offline to online?
Sure. Yeah, they are a very valid question, right? And we have a huge loyalty base. So we have 8 million active loyalty base, and with a total loyalty base of around 20 million odd, but active is 8 million, right? So definitely a huge base for us to explore. We have had reach out through multiple touch points, be it emails, be it SMS, be it WhatsApp, to communicate that we are with them. So messages from our CEO has gone out, right? From the CEO's desk that nothing to worry about. Matahari would be back. We are there for you, and we have our online offering already available to you, right? And we have been, so all through all these touch points, we are trying to put the message in around to trade online. We have seen decent conversions from our offline user base to online. So our monthly active users have also drastically increased. It has increased 2 times in the last 1 month odd, right? But again, there is a challenge as well in regards to that. Indonesia is vast. Indonesia also has remote and not so digitally savvy population on certain areas, like forgetting the metros. So even if you push, it's not always you're going to get them onto digital platforms. They still understand and prefer the physical touch points on buying at the Matahari stores. So I'm not expecting all 8 million to convert, but definitely if we can see at least 25-30% of them to be converted, that's a huge gain for us.
Right. So we have a couple of questions again. One from our colleague, Mark. He has been asking, what response are you seeing to your Ramadan campaigns? Could you share some campaign examples and user response trends, like increase or decrease in CTRs?
Yeah. So I would just touch on the campaigns, because again, it's something you will see on the market. I don't want to really divulge the exact campaigns that we have done, right? But I would say the buzzword that we are trying to do out here is, stay at home Ramadan, right? Ramadan from home. And then we are obviously we launched our Muslim wear, and that was always in the plans even before COVID and all that hit us. So that has been a huge gain for us for the last couple of months. And also we have been so we haven't, so unlike what Rosalind mentioned, right, about COVID situations and all that, we didn't want to go into that direction. We have remained focused on just putting our offerings out there. But again, we have kind of molded it into the the Muslim wear, the Ramadan flavor, as well as putting that that thought process that you can actually celebrate from home. It's not like your Ramadan is gone, right? It's still a festive season. You can still still celebrate it. So that's kind of the theme message we are circulating across all our touch points, be it on social, be it on site, be it on offline campaigns and stuff. So sorry, I have not probably able to give the numbers exactly how much of CTRs and all have turned on that, because these are a bit confidential for me to share right now. But obviously we are a public limited company, so at certain points you will get the details on our sites as well. Hello.
Sorry, I was speaking
Yes.
without unmuting myself. Sorry about that. So I have this question for all the panelists. If Rostin is still there, maybe Bara can also jump in and give in his thoughts around this, although it is going to be the other way around for Bara. The question is, with COVID-19 situation, is there a dip in conversion related to Ramadan or Raya campaigns, since many would scale down on Raya celebrations? Additionally, is there a shift in the type of items people shop for?
So let me probably start. Yeah. So I would say definitely some impacts have come, and we touched on this already in this session around, you know, the job cuts and all that, right? So
Yeah.
obviously spending power has decreased a bit. And it has its own impacts, but again, people are looking forward to the THR, but there are some flavors coming out of that. There are, you know, some thoughts around how much, so there are some thoughts around splitting it between now and December, because officially December is the time when the leaves are going to be given for Lebaran. That's what the government thought is, right? So spending power has been impacted a bit, but it has been a decent trend. Obviously, what we feel is that irrespective, people still want to have the festive period done properly. They still want to celebrate it. So and with obviously, you know, with offline stuck for us, that has resulted in our conversions on the online space. But there is a mix. Definitely, there is a mix. There are challenges around the situation and the spending power that you know, the consumers have right now. So that's my quick take on this.
Bara, your thoughts?
Okay, I think as I mentioned previously, when it comes, Visa is very unique when it comes to, in terms of the product vertical that we have.
I know.
Why we said it's unique, because we are not as much negatively affected by any disaster happening around the country. So in fact, when we are especially, I don't want to sound very positive about this, I mean, very upbeat, but I think it just, in the time of crisis, in the time of emergencies, disasters, or something like pandemic like COVID-19, usually platform donations platform like Kitabisa is not affected negatively. In fact, they are thriving when it comes to the traffic, because most of the time people just get together and, you know, trying to help in the little way they can, and most of them usually prefer to donate, because not all people can actually, you know, go to the field directly and, you know, probably donate or just deliver the goods directly. So that's why most people reserve to donating and hope and help in that way. So in this time, usually Kitabisa is not affected negatively. In the only thing that's changed from Kitabisa or product and from Kitabisa messaging when it comes to Ramadan is that previously, before the COVID, our plan is more on having key messages that are more toward festive, like, you know, celebrations and a positive update and how we should celebrate Ramadan, etc., etc. And then, given that we hit by this COVID-19, then we change our tone into more towards, okay, we are strong together and we can win over this together. Because historically speaking as well, Ramadan is also known for a victory month among Muslim community, because there are historical events related to Ramadan that are, you know, signifying a victory, a moment when it comes to Islamic history as well. So we use that angle, you know, to change the Ramadan message from something towards from celebrations towards something like, hey, we can do, we are strong together and we can overcome this together, just like how historically speaking, those Muslim community overcome the challenge together during that Ramadan month. So it conversion wise, it's in fact better than ever before. The only behavioral change that we saw is that if people donating to COVID-19, they usually stuck with COVID-19 campaign. So they usually doesn't donate to any other type of category campaign. So usually those people are people that specifically care about COVID-19 issues, and they will only donate to that kind of issues rather than trying to donate to any other categories. I think that's how it is for Kita Bisa.
That's very nicely put, Bara. We all hope that we are able to fight this unseen enemy and come out of it victorious. So I have two more questions. After that, I'll just put in my closing remarks and we can conclude this session in the interest of time. So one of the questions is, lots of Ramadan's habits changed during this pandemic. Just curious about green envelope, do it via Salam Temple tradition. Would it be changed either? Do brands like Touch and Go, Kitabisa, or Bank, or Matahari anticipate this? So the poster has also said that my little girl has already worried for not getting green envelope this Ramadan.
So again, I would probably leave on Bara to give more, view on that, because I am not Indonesian. So really, what about this, traditions, I think Bara would be more inclined to give that. Yeah, Zubair, something.
I know it is basically the Eid that we talk about in India.
Okay.
The money.
No, I don't think anything is changing, right? I just said, right, that the festivities are still there, obviously in a more in a different model altogether. But people do want to celebrate, and people are you will not be having that that gathering and all those kinds of celebrations, definitely, but from home. You still go for your your purchases of new clothes and whatever you do for your Ramadan celebration, you still would continue that. So I don't think that's changing, right? That's my view to it, and that's what we are observing as well.
Nice. Okay. No, we really hope that nothing of this changes and everyone comes out of it healthy and well, inshallah. That's our prayer. So we have a remark from Boost. They have mentioned, Lisa has mentioned, we crafted the campaign around 5 pillars, of which we based on impacted use cases. Number 1 is bill payment. Number 2 is online. Number 3 is games and entertainment. Number 4 is merchants. Number 5 is do good. So audience can see that we not only take care of our customers, our merchants, and finally welfare of the nation as a whole. That is do good via donation button. While offline partners are impacted because of these clear strategy using data and insights on our customers, we actually see a strong and healthy traction from these alternative use cases to cushion the impact during crisis. So that's a very nice thing to do, and thank you so much for sharing these insights, Lisa. Appreciate that. Now we have a last question that I'll take, or exactly 2 more questions. Ratna has asked us, what is the challenge marketers face most in upcoming months? What keeps you guys awake at night?
Obviously, lost sales. I mean, that's probably the only nightmare that, as any business, irrespective of being a marketeer or being in any other department, right? So definitely, that's that's something that is always a challenge, right? And in this times, right? So as I mentioned, right, spending power is a question. Beyond Ramadan, if the impacts continue, and when if it goes into more job cuts and more other economic impacts coming in, how will it shape up? That's I think one of the biggest questions that we are worried towards. So May should be good enough. June should be trending okay, but beyond June is what the question is, how it will change, right? As I said, it's not going to be it's not going to be a new normal, but it's definitely going to change, and the old normal is some months before it returns. So during this interim period where there already have been challenges about people losing jobs, about the economy going down across the globe, spending powers reducing, and once the festivities are done, then how does that shape in is probably one of the worries that we are, we are trying to figure out. There is no analytics that we can drive on that. This is the first time, right? There is no like for like that can be driven out of it. So it's only I think as we end Lebaran, as we move towards June, and then we see how the drop is coming, then only we can predict how this would be going towards the next couple of months.
Sure. So one last question is, I mean, of course, Bara is in a unique situation here,
Yeah.
wherein the COVID actually has worked the other way around. And there are a few other companies like education technologies, like edtech companies, food tech companies, e-commerce companies, and donation platforms. All these platforms have actually seen a surge happening around. And I'd also like to address a question that was posted to Rosnan about having 50 campaigns. Are they not too many, one too many? Basically, which is where, I mean, Rosnan, of course, answered it very clearly, but which is where tools like CleverTap can help you automate all these communications with your customers, also run automated campaigns for specific segment of users with relevant and contextual messages and all that stuff. So, which is why CleverTap is a leader in the market when it comes to all these automations. So the last question that I'll have here is one from our customer success team and also our marketing team. Are there any special initiatives that you have released for Ramadan or COVID? As Bara and Rosnan mentioned, has your focus also shifted from acquisition to retention?
Yeah, so yes, definitely for us, and we always, our major base has been returning users, right, rather than new users. So retention has always been a focus, and we have continued on that. In regards to campaigns, so as I mentioned, right, the theme of campaigns that we have done has always been, or in these times, is around continuing the festivities, irrespective, stay at home and do it. But we have done a bit of change in regards to the merchandise that we are kind of offering, right? Not massive changes, but kind of putting in the flavor of the situation. So we have diversified a bit into hand sanitizers and stuff, so that we give that being safe flavor running on that, and also that we care for you, right? And that's the offering we're giving. Also, along with that, what we are doing is for each purchase, we are sending a mask, right, along as a free mask along with the purchase. That's also that the COVID situation, the care for you aspect putting in there, so that the consumers, the customers realize that Matahari believes in the safety of our customers, and to have a long-term relationship running with them, right? So putting in a mixed flavor around both Ramadan as well as COVID situation, but not too much diversifying, because end of day, we want to stay what we are, right? We are still Mata, we are still value fashion. We want to keep that flavor. We don't want to diversify too much at this point.
All right.
And also, as I mentioned, sorry, just to add on, so we are diversifying on business scale. So we are going into other channels. So we are, if you, I don't know if you guys have seen that we are already live on Shopee, right? So you can now buy Matahari from Shopee. We will probably diversify in a few other marketplaces down the line. So increasing our touch points. And obviously that's also related to the offline stock sitting out there, right? So that also is something we need to look at, how to ensure that the stock clearances are happening. But this marketplace or other touchpoint models are going to be long-term. It's not a short-term measure. So that's kind of what we are doing as a diversification in these times.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your experience on this platform. Anurag and Bara, and Roshan is not there, but we are really thankful.
Can I add that?
Yeah, please go ahead, Bara.
So basically, I think regarding these questions and previous questions about the challenge in terms of marketing, I think one of the things that Kitabisa has learned the hard way is that, as previously mentioned, that are the the traffic toward our notifications or currently our user are bombarded with a lot of disinformations in terms of almost all company is gearing toward this, right? Like, let's help on the COVID, let's do something on the COVID-19. So it's sometimes becoming a lot of noises that are coming into the customers. So I think what kita bisa learn is that rather than trying to stand up on our own, like, you know, fighting for the spaces in users phone, for example, for notifications, that we also rely on our cooperations with the others. We call it the partner 3PPs. Like, for example, like Gojek, we integrated heavily with Gojek, with Dana as well, with Link Aja, and other any apps in Indonesia to integrate the donations platform within their apps and to have a joint initiative or campaign as well. So that way, it's not only the message that we are going to send is not only relying on the channel that we have, but also can tap into the channel that our partners have. So I think having this network of partners or joint collaborations or cross-marketing or upselling might help for us to stand out from the crowd, or just to, you know, tap into new user base, for example. So, and the other thing that changes when it comes to COVID-19 and Ramadan, I think, I don't know, I think I cannot share the PDF through the Zoom, but I tried to find the link, but I haven't found it yet. But I think recently Nielsen's come up with a report called Race Against the Virus. I really recommend for all the marketers and product managers or business strategists to take a look at the report by Nielsen's. Basically, what we gain from reading that reports that actually drive how we implement our strategy this month is that people care about how to protect their family. That one of the things that are the topic or issues that on top of people's minds. So so I think we include that as well in terms of in our marketing or any newsletter, or we actually have dedicated microsite only for COVID-related campaign, fundraisings, updates, etc. Also, a lot of more people actually reading news or watching TVs, or I think news platform also thriving as well in this time. So having a partnership with them, having a integration or strategic initiative that focusing and targeting on that user as well can help. Food industry also, especially takeout industry also are thriving as well. So I think that's why there are certain donation platform as well that are tapping into that. So when you buy something from the food, for example, the strategy is that when you buy something from that online goods in GoFood, for example, or GrabFood, then some amount of that that you paid actually goes to certain campaign or initiative. That also, and medicine is also big. I think pharmacies, people's looking for all sort of keyword when it comes to medicines like cough syrup and vitamin and supplement and all of that. So perhaps targeting that SEO might work as well for certain content that you have. I think, and I think you can also read a lot about it in that report. So I think you, I really recommend you to try to look for that report by Nielsen's.
Yeah, sure. Maybe you can just ping me that. I'll circulate that among the participants. Thank you for sharing that, Bara. All right, then with this, we have come to the conclusion of the session. It is on the dot 11:30 in Indonesia. And I'm really happy for the participation of all the participants today, along with the panelists. I cannot thank you enough, panelists, Anurag, Bara, and Rosnan. I truly appreciate your time and sharing your vast experience with everyone else on board. So thank you again. I really wish everyone a safe and happy Ramadan period. And hopefully, as Bara mentioned, we all come out of this victorious. All right. So thank you very much. I'll see you all soon, perhaps in Indonesia or Malaysia, once the travel restrictions are lifted. Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
CleverTap team as well.